My wife Sherry thought I was unaware of her plans. She believed I was either foolish or, at the very least, unaware of her ongoing affair with her colleague Todd. She thought I would let her cuckold me and that I would resign myself to her sleeping with him in order to stay her husband. She had more in store. Knowing her, I had long suspected her. I noticed changes, clear signs of infidelity, such as frequently working late, sexual updates to her wardrobe, more aggressive sex, and a loss of interest in things we once cared about. I tried several times to talk to her about it, but each time my concerns were ignored. Sherry, of course, denied that anything was wrong. She claimed it was just my own insecurity and possessiveness working overtime. So, I had no choice but to hire a private detective. I refused to remain blind to the truth. I would never tolerate my wife cheating on me. I made that clear from the beginning of our relationship and repeated it many times over our 10 years of marriage. So, with mixed feelings, I sat in the office of Private Detective Jake Clune and listened to his report. I felt relief when he indicated that Sherry was not unfaithful. However, this relief was short-lived when he added the word yet. As he explained, my wife had an affair. It had not yet become sexual, but it was only a matter of time. It seems that Sherry and Todd were what you'd call work spouses. I hated that term. Sherry had only one spouse, me. Some might find this expression cute and harmless, but to me, it meant she had an intimate relationship with someone else. Well, it turned out she did. According to the private detective's report, Sherry and Todd had lunch together every day, just the two of them. They held hands and sat close. He provided numerous photographs of them hugging and sometimes even kissing. I was infuriated by what I saw and wanted to confront that presumptuous jerk Todd. In addition to lunches, the lovers often worked late together, although there was no substantial reason for it. It seemed as if they wanted to avoid returning home to their respective spouses and squeeze as much our time out of each day as possible. The detective told me he managed to track Sherry's emails and messages. I knew it was completely illegal, and I could never use this in a divorce. In our state, divorces on the grounds of marital infidelity were possible but difficult. No-fault divorces were much easier, and I didn't need evidence for that anyway. I just wanted it for my own purposes. Clune refused to give me copies of the actual messages. He didn't even let me see them. Instead, he offered me a summary of what they contained. He assured me that my wife had never spoken disparagingly about me. Several times Todd tried to belittle me, but Sherry did not allow it. Well, I guess it could have been worse. The emails and messages confirmed their romantic relationship, although neither of them admitted to being in love. Their conversations were very sexual, bordering on sexting. Todd sent my wife pictures of his genitals, which thrilled her, and she reciprocated with photos of her bare chest. As far as Sloan could tell, she had not yet sent any pictures below the waist. As I sat in his office contemplating my next steps, Clune shared even worse news. Todd's wife was leaving town for 3 days to visit her mother. The lovers decided to seize the opportunity to meet and consummate their relationship. The only obstacle in their way was me. They were unsure how they could spend the night together if I was still around. Since I was not planning to leave town, it would be nearly impossible. They considered various plans. One of them was to tell me that Sherry was going on a girls-only trip for the weekend. She feared that I might talk to one of her friends and discover the truth. She did not want to involve anyone to create a viable alibi, so that idea was discarded. Then they thought about making me leave town. I bitterly laughed, recalling how Sherry had suggested I organize a golf trip with my friends. I was not interested, which also knocked that option off the table. Finally, they came up with a new, direct approach: honesty. Todd believed I was a cuckold in the making and that I would do everything to keep Sherry as my loving, happy wife, including letting her close the chapter with another man. Somehow, he convinced Sherry that by sleeping with him, she would help improve our sexual life and our relationship. He persuaded her that all she needed to do was tell me about her plan with Todd, and I would relent and allow her to go through with it. Obviously, this guy didn't know me, but what surprised me most was that Sherry bought into his nonsense. She should have known I would never tolerate this. If she doesn't understand that, then she is mentally unstable. Clune told me that was all they had, so I took what he gave me and went home. I asked him to continue monitoring Sherry's messages and to let me know if anything changed. On Friday, Clune called me and told me that Sherry planned to meet with me the following Monday after work. She was going to tell me that she planned to go on a date with Todd on Friday evening. This date would start with dinner and dancing, but end with the couple spending the night in a hotel room, having sex until they lost consciousness. She intended to return home to me on Saturday or perhaps Sunday, depending on how much sex they had. Sherry and Todd had rehearsed her entire speech and convinced themselves that I would accept her demands. They knew that initially, I would be upset, even angry, but Sherry planned to assure me that it was just this once, even though they both knew that wasn't true. She tried to tell me that afterwards she would have sex with me as a reward for my understanding. Knowing that Sherry and I hadn't had sex for several months, she assumed I would be so happy to have Todd's sloppy seconds that I would agree to her wishes. How thoughtful of them to consider my needs. I had just 2 days to prepare for the confrontation. Sherry and Todd mockingly called it an intervention. Damn if it would go as she imagined. I decided to turn their intervention into my ultimatum. I spent the weekend going through scenario after scenario, trying to figure out what I was going to do and how I could fix my marriage. First, I had to decide if I even wanted to fix it. I wasn't sure that I knew. As I pondered my feelings towards Sherry, my plan of action developed tentatively. I decided to sort it out directly and end this once and for all. When we first got married, Sherry and I seemed blissfully happy. We spent all our time together, sharing everything we experienced in life. She was my best friend and greatest lover. Somehow, all of that seemed to have vanished. Maybe that's just how things are. Nothing lasts forever. Perhaps my view of marriage was quite old-fashioned and idealized. I thought we would be a team, going through life side by side, facing the challenges and hardships that would come our way. Sherry and I had both been married before, but unsuccessfully. If this marriage also failed, maybe the problem wasn't with us. Perhaps it was with the institution of marriage itself. How can people expect to maintain feelings, desires, interests, and passions when fate insists on being fickle and finding ways to change everything and everyone? In a world of 30-second sound bites, rapidly evolving culture, social media, and instant gratification, perhaps marriage, like dinosaurs and compact discs, is outdated. I thought that if Sherry wants to be with Todd, maybe I should just let her. Then I snapped out of it and came to my senses. I would never let her make a fool of me. Maybe I don't want her anymore, but damn if I'll let Todd get the upper hand and claim rights to my wife. To hell with all of it. I was ready to fight when my wife called me right after lunch on Monday. "Hey, Sherry," I began. "Is everything okay? You never call me at work anymore. I hope everything is all right." "Hello, dear," she replied. "Dear? Really? Did she also use that term with Todd?" "Nothing's wrong. I just wanted to make sure you'll be home on time today. I need to talk to you about something very important, so I need you to be there." "Oh, okay," I responded, adding, "That's good because I also have some important news for you. I should be home around 5:15. Will that work?" She hesitated before responding. When she asked this, it was only to gather information. "Big news? What kind?" she asked. "I'll tell you tonight," I said, deciding to end the call. "I'm in the middle of my monthly report. I need to get it done so I can leave on time. See you at home." I hung up and walked down the hallway to my boss's office to tell him I was taking the rest of the day off. He had no objections, which was good. I had a few things to prepare for the showdown. I was sitting at the kitchen table when at 5:27, I heard the garage door open. I was nervous, but also very angry. I tried my best to maintain a calm exterior, while inside, tumultuous emotions raged. I had an open bottle of Sauvignon Blanc with ice and 2 glasses ready. 2 minutes later, the door opened, and Sherry walked in alone, throwing her keys and purse on the table. I was relieved she hadn't brought Todd along. That would have complicated everything. I smiled. "Hello, dear," I said, repeating the endearing term she had used earlier. "Welcome home. Do you need some time before we talk, or do you want to get straight to the point?" She was stunned by my immediate desire to talk. I think she assumed we would eventually get to it, and wasn't ready for it so soon. I wouldn't let her gain the upper hand. I wanted to keep her tense and unprepared. She had everything she planned to do and say worked out in detail, so I needed to be as disruptive as possible. I didn't expect you to be sitting here waiting, but yes, I guess the sooner we start, the sooner we can continue our evening, Sherry said, approaching and sitting down opposite me. If you don't mind, I'll share my news first. Do you mind? I asked rather insistently. No, she said hesitantly. That's fine. Good. Would you like a glass of wine? I asked. I didn't wait for her response. I poured us both a glass and placed one in front of her. Yes, that would be great, she said with a sigh. Lifting the glass and drinking half of it, I refilled her glass as soon as she set it down. So, this is something I've thought a lot about, I began. I'm not going to beat around the bush. There's no point in dragging this out. I paused, deliberately trying to create tension. It worked. Sherry leaned forward and looked at me intently. What's the matter? She asked. I want a divorce, I stated bluntly and waited for it to sink in. It took about 3 seconds. Sherry's face revealed her thoughts and emotions. At first, she was confused, as if she couldn't comprehend the words I was saying. Then it dawned on her what I had said, and she was shocked. Fear and anxiety quickly turned to surprise. She was afraid that I might have learned about her affair with Todd. Why? She asked, fearing the answer. I no longer love you, I said. It felt like I had stabbed Sherry in the chest with a knife. What? She asked, struggling with my statement. I've fallen out of love with you, Sherry. I don't remember exactly when I stopped loving you, I lied. I knew exactly when. That was so long ago. I tried not to pay attention to it as much as I could, but lately, it's been harder and harder for me to ignore the truth. What are you talking about? She asked. She seemed on the verge of tears. I was surprised by her reaction. Do you remember when we first got married? I asked. Remember how we spent all our free time together? If we went somewhere, to the store, to the movies, to the mall, anywhere, we did it together, as if we couldn't stand to be apart. She nodded. I remember, Sherry said. We both had jobs, but we made a point to have lunch together at least twice a week, and we couldn't wait to finish work to rush home and be together. I missed you every day and eagerly awaited coming home, kissing you, and most often, making love to you. We had shared hobbies. You made me go with you to those silly pottery classes. You know how much I enjoyed doing that with you? I thought you hated pottery, Sherry said, looking at me intently. The point wasn't about ceramics. It was about sharing the experience with you, I told her. I enjoyed every minute of it. I liked watching you do it and helping you. I was delighted by your enthusiasm. The same goes for painting those darn Christmas Village buildings. We bought about a dozen of those small, unpainted houses, which we painted together for a Christmas exhibition. It was tiring, but we enjoyed it. Yours were always better than mine, Sherry said. Do you remember how many nights we spent together at the table, applying paint to the tiles? Sherry nodded again. I loved you so much then. We also spent hour after hour coloring those big posters you picked up during the trip to Myrtle Beach. This was long before adult coloring books were trendy. We still have hundreds of those colored pens, but like our love, they all dried up. Sherry visibly recoiled. My love hasn't dried up, she countered, defending herself. I ignored her and continued. All our friends talked about how envious they were of us. We did everything together. We took long walks holding hands every day. If I needed to run to the hardware store to get trimmer line for the weeds, you would come with me. If you wanted to shop for clothes, I would tag along and wait by the dressing room. Yes, but you hated it. She challenged me. You would always be on your phone. You didn't look at clothes with me. I didn't care what you chose. I thought you were beautiful in everything. I was there to be with you. I could have stayed home and watched sports shows. We talked about how other women in the neighborhood would gather to play bingo or have girls' nights, but you never wanted to go. Do you remember what you told me about why you didn't participate? Sherry wiped a tear from her cheek. Yes, I remember. You said you didn't want to hang out with hens when you could hang out with me instead. Many nights, we cuddled under the covers and watched You've Got Mail. I like that movie, Sherry said, holding back tears. We must have watched it at least 100 times, I said, refilling her glass. I still want to watch it with you, Sherry exclaimed. I don't want a divorce. I thought we would grow old together, take cooking classes, do ballroom dancing, or just lie in bed and read books, anything as long as we were with each other. But we grew apart, Sherry. I don't know exactly when it started, I said, looking into my wife's eyes. We went from having lunches 2 or 3 days a week to having lunch once a week. It was Sherry's doing. She once told me she didn't have time to have lunch outside the office so often. That was a lie. She still ate out. She just decided to do it with someone else. And then, before I knew it, we completely stopped having lunch together. I started joining my colleagues for lunch. Over time, I found that I enjoyed their company, perhaps even too much. I exaggerated, but I tried my hardest not to shift the blame onto Sherry. I didn't want to make her defensive or start resisting. This conversation could quickly sour or turn into an argument. That wasn't my goal, at least not yet. And then coming home early to spend time together stopped being so important. We worked later and later. When we finally got home, we were often distant or distracted. Why didn't you ever talk about this? Sherry asked. If I knew it was important to you, I would have tried to have lunch with you more often or not work so late. You're right, I said, agreeing with her, even though I had talked about it many, many times. It's a shame I couldn't understand why it wasn't important for you to be with me. Maybe if I had, I could have changed or done something to make you want to spend more time with me. I think I failed in that regard. I felt like I was taking responsibility for our drift. That was far from the truth. I knew that if I blamed Sherry and Todd first, we wouldn't be able to finish the discussion without it turning ugly. I'd never make her see my side of things. That would make me controlling, jealous jerk. Before revealing what I knew, I wanted her to remember what we had and think about her role in destroying it. Gradually, we stopped doing almost everything together. You started going to your girls' nights. I started going to poker nights. On weekends, you'd go to the spa. I'd go play golf. Sherry, we could go whole days without talking about the weather or the latest news. Our sex life also began to suffer. Often, we were too tired or not in the mood. When we first got married, we couldn't keep our hands off each other. We had sex 4 or 5 days a week, often multiple times a day. I would caress you while you cooked, and we would skip dinner and have sex all night. We used to spend all our time in the hot tub, constantly having fun. We haven't used the hot tub in over a year. I thought you didn't want sex anymore, Sherry retorted. I have no idea where she got that idea. I think she was justifying her behavior, trying to make it my fault. Oh God, no, I said with a laugh. I never stopped wanting sex. I'm just as excited now as I was 10 years ago. I just stopped wanting sex with you. I knew this would deeply hurt her. She thought she had rejected me sexually, and here I am telling her that our lack of sex was because I didn't want her. I almost laughed if it hadn't hurt so much. What? Sherry asked, her voice breaking. I don't think she expected those words from me. You didn't want to have sex with me? I lost all interest in having sex with you, I said bluntly. You were like a cold fish. You just laid there. You never wanted to do anything exciting or even remotely playful. It seemed like you wanted to get it over with quickly to get back to something more interesting, like knitting. All this time, I still wanted weekend-long sex marathons like before. Hell, you didn't even want me to give you an orgasm. Sex with you was boring, Sherry. You didn't even realize it, but the last few times we had sex, I pretended to climax just to get it over with. You didn't, replied Sherry. You ejaculated into me. No, don't you remember? You insisted I use condoms during sex even though you were on birth control. I got more pleasure from self-pleasuring than from having sex with you. What? She shouted. She seemed completely crushed by the idea that I didn't enjoy sex with her. Good. My plan was working. Sorry, Sherry, I said, plunging the knife deeper. It's me, not you. For a few moments, she stared at me intensely. Her tears dried up, her face reddened. I wasn't sure if it was from anger, disappointment, or embarrassment. I filled her empty glass. She took it and took a big gulp. It was only a matter of time, I continued, before we start looking for someone else to spend time with. I didn't mean myself, but she didn't know that. Are you cheating on me? She suddenly asked angrily. Have you fallen for someone else? Sherry, you know how I feel about infidelity. I made a vow to you when we got married, and I take that vow seriously. I know your first husband cheated on you, just like my first wife slept with a colleague behind my back. I would never do that to you, just like I know you would never stoop so low as to try to cuckold me by sleeping with another man. How could you think I would do that? I'm sorry, she apologized. You're right. I know you wouldn't do that. She looked guilty and couldn't meet my gaze. Her hands were shaking. Let's wait until the divorce to have sex for the first time, I declared, clearly hinting that I had a new romantic interest. Which brings me to my main news. I've already met with a lawyer and filed the paperwork. You'll be served on Friday. Wait, what? She asked, growing desperate. I told you, you'll be served divorce papers on Friday, I said, trying not to smile. It's for the best. That way, you can regain your freedom and do what you want. And so can I. We can acknowledge that the last 10 years have been a waste of our time and move on. They haven't been a waste of time for me. Oh, come on, Sherry, I said. I think you want this as much as I do. I mean, let's be real. You haven't wanted to be with me for a long time. Our marriage was a mistake. I'm not the person you want to be with. No, that's not true. She objected. I don't want a divorce. You can't just divorce me because you want to. I don't want to divorce you. I want to be married to you. Forever. I love you. Sorry, Sherry, but I no longer love you. This is a no-fault divorce, so we can just split all assets 50-50ths. I mean, it's remotely possible to get more than half of the assets, but that's only if one of us cheats, and we can absolutely prove marital infidelity. But neither of us is cheating and is unlikely to do so by Friday, right? So, we can make a clean break. I would like you to come with me to the bank tomorrow so we can divide the money from all our accounts evenly. We'll have to open new accounts, get new credit cards, and change all utility payments. And we'll have to sell the house. On Wednesday, a realtor will come to list it for sale. Wait, you're rushing too much, Sherry shouted. I don't know what to do. Please, stop. She started crying again. Don't worry, I've already packed my things and will be staying in a hotel room until I can move to a permanent place. You can stay here until the house sells. Wait. Damn it. Sherry yelled. Please, wait. There's no need to wait, I said. Right? We shouldn't postpone this anymore. I mean, we should take care of everything by Friday. Isn't that right? Why? What's so damn important about Friday? She demanded. Well, on Friday, you're going on a date with your boyfriend Todd, right? Isn't that the day when you two plan to spend the night together at a hotel and have sex all night? Sherry froze. Her eyes seemed like they were about to pop out of their sockets. Her mouth was open like a dying fish. She tried to say something, but all that came out was a hiss. Got the day wrong? Wait, I said, pulling a folder from under a stack of Best Homes and Gardens magazines and opening it. I pulled out a sheet with a brief report from the private detective and, sliding it between us, showed Sherry. I pointed to the part that mentioned her plans to sleep with Todd on Friday night. No, I'm right. You see, it says here that you and Todd have a table booked at Gaylord, Texas for Friday evening. That's not, she started, but I cut her off. Is that not what it looks like? I asked, finishing the sentence for her. Oh, I need to show you the photos of you and Todd kissing during lunch? She stared at me, and tears started flowing again. I'm so sorry, she said quietly. Now I remember when exactly I stopped loving you. I said with a broad smile. I stopped loving you the day I found out you planned to cuckold me with your colleague, just like my ex-wife. I'm sorry, darling, she blurted out, desperately trying to convince me. I don't love Todd. It's just a fling. Something to spice up our relationship. I'll spend the night with him, and then we'll spend the rest of the weekend together, having hot sex like before. Todd said you'd like it, that it would turn you on and reignite our sexuality. Yes, that's it. Spice up our sex life. Instead of having hot sex with me, you spice things up by having sex with someone else. Does that make sense? No, but… She couldn't even finish the sentence. She changed tactics. Todd said you'd be okay with it if you wanted me to be happy. I want you to be happy, I said. I want you to be happy with me, like before. I don't want you to be happy with another man. Have you lost your mind? How could you think that would be okay with me? You should have known how I feel about infidelity. Yes, but… She tried to find some way to justify her actions. It won't be infidelity. I wouldn't cheat. Will you give me your permission? Not in this lifetime, I said. Now I know that. I should have understood it from the beginning. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I was bored and lonely. Todd excited me again. Bored and lonely? How could you be bored and lonely when we were happy in love and enjoyed all our time together? I don't know, but… She started again. Have you ever thought that you were bored and lonely because you cut us off? You stopped having lunch with me. You stopped spending time with me and doing different things with me. You decided to avoid me and put yourself in such a position. You preferred to spend time with him rather than me. So, if you were bored and lonely, you deliberately created that state so that Todd could get rid of boredom and loneliness. I don't think I did that, she said, staring at me. She shook her head. No, I can't believe I would do that. I thought you stopped coming for lunch. Because you told me so. Don't you remember? You kept telling me that you were too busy. And then, somehow on Wednesday, the day of our lunch, I stopped by to pick you up, and you didn't even bother to come to the lobby and say that you couldn't make it. You texted me to go for lunch without you. After that, I stopped coming, and you never even mentioned that we stopped having lunch. I don't think you even realized it. Sherry looked at her hands. You were so absorbed in your own world that you didn't notice you were losing me. You were all about yourself and Todd. Well, now you can have him. I don't need him. She snapped, looking at me from below. I want you. I want us. I want us to be like we were before. I'm so sorry. I messed up. I waved us off. It's too late, I said, shaking my head. You can't think like that. I didn't cheat on you. We didn't do anything. I won't see him anymore. I swear. I'll quit my job. I'll go work somewhere else. Please, I don't want to lose you. I still love you. You cheated on me in every way except one. But that's the most important thing. We didn't have sex. I was stupid. I was crazy about Todd. I didn't love him. I always loved only you. I don't know what I was thinking. I would have dealt with him and come back to you as soon as I got rid of this. But now it's over. Now I see it. I know. It was foolish. I was foolish. Todd means nothing to me. Please, baby, please. Don't leave me. It's not that simple, Sherry. Why can't it be? I messed up. I did it. But you stopped me before I went too far. You already went too far, I disagreed. Only sex would have sealed the deal. I didn't do anything. We were just friends. She exclaimed. You should have been more of a friend to me than to anyone else, I retorted. I have many female friends. I don't kiss them. I never spent time on them. I never replaced you with them, and I never planned to have sex with them and make you accept it. Sherry lowered her head onto her hands, sobbing. I will never neglect you and take you for granted again. I swear. Please, can't we treat this as a big mistake? Can't you forgive me and give me another chance? This isn't damn Monopoly, where you can get out of jail with a free card, I told her. You didn't just make a big mistake. You left our love and gave your heart to another man. No, he never had my heart. My heart has always been yours. And were you planning to give him your body? But I didn't do that. You stopped me. Damn it. Don't you love me enough to fight for me? Do I mean so little to you? You mean everything to me. I would fight anyone for you. I would die for you. So no, I wouldn't even piss on you if you were on fire. Sherry let out a piercing cry. She grabbed my hands and tried to pull me towards her. No, please. You can't think that way. I'm so sorry. I'm so So sorry. You have to believe me. I think you regret it, I said. It shows me you're not entirely selfish and heartless. Then can you give me another chance? Please, I beg you. Please, don't leave me. I'm not leaving you, Sherry. You did this yourself. I sincerely believe you regret it. Maybe someday I'll be able to forgive you. But it doesn't change anything. I don't love you anymore. It's over. But don't worry, you always have Todd to comfort you. Todd is married, she said through sobs. He just wanted to sleep with me. He didn't want any relationship. I smirked. Well, now he might change his mind. I'm sure his wife had something to say to him today when he got home. She and I are using the same divorce lawyer. Sherry's jaw dropped again. I pushed a folder towards her across the table. The investigator's full report is here, along with photos of you and Todd. His wife has a copy. Also included is all the information from my lawyer about the divorce and how we propose to divide assets. I suggest you read all of this. No, baby, please, she pleaded. Don't do this. If you want to go to the bank with me tomorrow, call and let me know. I got up from the table and left the house, ignoring the sound of the wife crying. Epilogue: Sherry fought against the divorce. I didn't want a lengthy and expensive legal battle, so when the judge suggested going to a marriage counselor, I agreed. The counseling helped more than I expected. Sherry and I confronted our feelings. We talked about everything openly and without judgment. She understood why she fell victim to Todd's advances and almost lost me and our marriage. I explained my pain and humiliation caused by her actions. The counselor was proud of our progress. After a few sessions, I returned home. We had hot sex several times. Sherry was very willing to do whatever I wanted sexually. A year later, we became that loving couple we were when we first got married. Sherry changed jobs and now worked in my company. We commuted to work and back together and had lunch together every day. We didn't do it because we felt obligated or controlled. We did it because we wanted to be together. In fact, we did almost everything together. We decorated a small Christmas village and finished painting 2 pictures that we had abandoned many years ago. We signed up for another pottery class and enrolled in ballroom dancing. I even found a box with all the colored pins. Much to my surprise, they hadn't dried out. One evening, while we were cuddling under a blanket, eating popcorn, and watching You've Got Mail, Sherry kissed me and said, "Honey, I need to talk to you about something important." I saw tears welling up in her eyes. My heart skipped a beat, and I started to panic. Before I could say anything, Sherry continued, "You're going to be a daddy?" I smiled and wiped the tears from her cheek, saying in my best Tom Hanks accent, "Don't cry, shop girl." Okay, so I'm just obsessed with happy endings.
Súbeme.